Hi everyone and welcome to a brand new video on my channel. Today we'll be talking about the uncensored picture of Dorian Gray by Victorian and Irish author Oscar Wilde. The picture of Dorian Gray was published in 1890 and it is in fact Wilde's only novel. I have read it's not his best work and I can imagine why. After all, it was a writing place he excelled. However, I am not in a position to say whether it's true or not, since the only other work of his I have read, The Importance of Being Earnest, I read it about 10 years ago for school, and I don't remember much, to be honest. Let's talk about the book though. This is actually not the version most of you have read or heard of. This is said to be the original manuscript Wilde submitted to be published, which was unearthed and published finally in 2012. It is a shorter, perhaps less detailed version of the story and its characters with fewer chapters, but what's most important and what piqued my interest is that it is uncensored. While this is admittedly an extremely popular classic book, it was quite scandalous and heavily criticized when it came out. It was a quite controversial novel because of its depiction of hedonism, immorality and decay. And I dare say people were mostly shocked because it is a critique of a decadent Victorian society, its moral hypocrisy, its corruption, and the obsession with appearance. And we know from a long history of literary censorship how horrified some people can be when someone tries to defy the status quo. Whatever the reason, reactions were quite strong at the time. And bear in mind this was after Wilde's editor had sanitized and cut out some passages, especially those with homoerotic undertones. So one can only imagine what might have happened if the original manuscript had been released. I've got to say I have not read anything that seemed scandalizing to me in this uncensored version, not anything too explicit though. There are certainly some scenes where you can infer Basil is besotted by Dorian. In one of his monologues he actually confesses his fascination or love for him, and he sort of lets it slip that he has never felt anything like that for a woman, but that is it. The words "I love you" are never said, and it is as vague as it can be while also trying to be as explicit as it could be. Of course, people were not clueless at the time and would most likely have understood what Basil means in this monologue. This goes to show that Wilde himself was painfully aware of what it meant to write this sort of book at the time, and I am sure he held back when writing it. Okay, so I basically told you everything about the book but the plot. I'd say the picture of Dorian Gray centers around, you guessed it, Dorian Gray. He is young, boyish and innocent, and he is also strikingly handsome. Everyone is fascinated by him, including the talented painter Basil Hallward, who makes him his muse. In the opening scene at the beginning of the book, Dorian goes to Basil's to pose for him since he is painting a portrait for Dorian. And there he meets Basil's friend, Lord Henry, who has a powerful and also disruptive influence on Dorian. They discuss the meaning of life, and Lord Henry convinces Dorian that what matters the most in life is to live out one's dreams and give in to temptation. He sees in Dorian what could become a perfect example of this new hedonistic way of life, and he can do whatever he wishes as long as he is young and beautiful. It is only when the portrait is ready and Dorian looks at it that he really becomes aware of his magnetism, and after hearing Lord Henry's words, he wishes he could stay young, innocent and handsome forever, and that the picture would age and suffer instead. This is where the elements of gothic horror in the book come in. As we soon enough find out, Dorian's wish comes true. As he becomes more and more corrupt, his appearance does not change or reflect his scenes, but the picture of him is spoiled, mirroring his tarnished soul. This both fascinates and terrifies Dorian at different times in the book, and he tries to keep the picture hidden so as to make sure that no one discovers his secret. Things eventually spiral out of control and Dorian ends up going mad, leading up to a tragic and gory ending. I would say Dorian, Lord Henry and Basil represent different archetypes. Dorian is pure, like a blank canvas ready to be painted or influenced, in this case, by Lord Henry. Lord Henry is a bad influence, of course, and he disdains and criticizes the hypocrisy of morality in society. As for Basil, he is a good man, sort of like Dorian's conscience, but he is too blind and infatuated to actually see or do anything about what is happening to Dorian. The novel is great in that it shows the darkest side of beauty and the lengths to which one is willing to go just because we become obsessed with ourselves and our own pleasure and neglect everyone and everything else. But it's also a clear critique of the double standards and puritanism of Victorian times. I think that it is a very good book overall, and I particularly like that it's full of aphorisms and philosophical reflections, but without it being annoying or boring. And of course, the novel has some shortcomings. Towards the end of the book, for example, there's a chapter where the author gets a bit sidetracked, in my opinion. The whole chapter is devoted to describing how Dorian collects the most exotic artifacts, clothes, and so on, until he eventually gets tired of them and moves on to a new obsession. Besides being an example of materialism, it does not contribute much to the plot. And we are actually talking about the whole chapter here, so I don't think it makes sense. Another thing that could be improved is the way women are portrayed. The only woman that has some lines in the novel serves as an example of romantic disenchantment and the artistic beauty of tragedy. She is just an object of interest for Dorian, who quickly grows tired of her and leaves her, driving her to despair. Of course, we must not lose sight of the historical context in which the book was written. Have you read the novel or any of the other works by Oscar Wilde? You can share your thoughts in the comment section below. That's all for now. I hope you liked the video and see you again very soon.